What is our big sickness of our time, that we get more and more lonely. Instagram and Facebook, they promised us before to bring us together, but they did the opposite. We hide more and more. We are just talking about
more polarized, more extremism.
Exactly, because we don't talk. So I want to create 3 million Nomad Fests around the world where people come together and learn from each other, exchange ideas, do peer-to-peer learning.
The magic happens when we are together.
We are getting more conscious about that.
Hello everyone to another episode of Colivers Club. Today here I'm with Pelé Philipp Weber. He wants to build 3 million Nomad Fests. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you, César.
Yeah, I think the first question to ask you is, what is a Nomad Fest?
So a Nomad Fest is a gathering of nomads, and that's already the problem, because at the moment we have only 30 million nomads now around the world. So in Switzerland we do the Swiss Nomad Fest as well. It's now the third we did in last December, the Nomad Fest. And when I tell to people in Switzerland, I tell them, hey, do you come to the Nomad Fest? And they're like, yeah, I'm not a nomad. So I want to create 3 million Nomad Fests around the world, because I believe we need to have a format where people come together and learn from each other, exchange ideas, do peer-to-peer learning, and every little village should have its own little Nomad Fest. That's where the 3 million comes from. We have 3 billion, according to Google, 3 million villages around the world. And so, yeah, every little village should have format 3-4 days a year where we come together and share problems and find solutions. That would be, we would deserve that as human beings now, to have something where we empower ourselves.
Absolutely. And to me, Bansko Nomad Fest, which is one of the Nomad Fest, it's something that is very special to me because it was my first digital nomad event. I was there last year, and I actually, after 7 years of working for the same company, I quit my job during Bansko Nomad Fest. So I feel like that's the maximum thing you can do in a in Nomad Fest, quitting your job to become a freelancer and be a true digital nomad. Because for you, what does it mean to be a digital nomad?
Well, that's the funny thing, yeah, that's what we say. In Bansko is where the magic happens. Yeah. I have been there the first time only to 22, but I had the same feeling. I was like, wow, that is so different, what happens here. And it's serendipity, I can't pronounce the word properly, but it is this moment where everything comes together and this energy explodes, and
the whole city comes to life. It's ridiculous. It's incredible.
And in yourself as well. Now something happens, and you have so good meetings of people that show you, hey, I need to go out of my comfort zone. That's what I felt the first time I came to Bansko as well.
Yeah, I actually felt so supported by this group of random people and strangers when I was telling them, oh, I'm quitting my job, and they were all congratulating me and they were like celebrating. And to me that's amazing, because when I told my family and friends, which I love them very much, they were of course concerned, like, are you sure, like, you have a good salary, it's quite flexible, and they were concerned, but it's a totally different mindset, no? I think our comfort zone as digital nomads is outside of the comfort zone.
Exactly. And you know what, it's very funny now, like for me that was a new thing as well, like I do summer camps normally. I started with summer camps 2007, and soon I realized, wow, I don't only teach French, German, English to the kids, I empower them. The parents came to me and said, wow, that is amazing what you do. My kid came back and it's so much
And
more
it's the same kid, no? You didn't...
In 2 weeks, yeah, in 2 weeks.
It's not a different kid that you mistook and placed them with a random family, no? It's the same one.
No, they came back
okay.
entirely. And then I was always looking for something for adults, to empower adults. And when I came to Bansko, also the unconference, that was for me exactly the format that I've been looking all my life long, where I'm not such a fan of the keynotes, like out of 10 keynotes, for me, maybe 3 or 4 are really relevant. But with the unconferences, and I don't think we need to explain it to our audience here, most people would know it in our audience.
Maybe we should explain so they understand the magic.
Good, let's do it. So in Bansko on Monday at 1 o'clock, everybody has 1 minute that wants to pitch. And even that, it's also, many people in the beginning are a bit like, shall I really do it in stage or in front of 400 people? And it needs a little bit, but then you do it and you're proud about yourself, and then you do your unconference, so people are pitching their idea, and afterwards during the week they have a half an hour slot that they can decide themselves what they want to do for this half an hour. They can do also have a monologue, but obviously I believe it's much more interesting to have exchange, peer-to-peer, knowledge base. And so yeah, we had topics like one guy was, I always bring that as an example of, or chronic illnesses. I mean, fortunately not many people have that, but if you have it, it's a horrible thing, and it's great if you can come together and discuss strategies. And there would be so much inside this wisdom if we come more together and just exchange ideas. Or you see the neighbor and you're like, why is he in such a bad mood? But if then sometimes you make a small step towards him and you're like talking, suddenly the neighbor wakes up and is like, wow, I share my problems now with you. But I think we have been, for too long, we had to have this facade, especially in Western Europe. It was in the 40s, 50s, 60s. It was very important to keep your facade, to pretend something. And the young generation now is definitely totally the changers. I never had that. My mother always was like, come, don't give a shit what people tell about us. That doesn't matter. It's not important. It's a bit ridiculous. And so that's really cool about Gen Z, no, that they say, why should we do that? And
yeah, absolutely. Breaking with old patterns.
We go back to the home conference. So that's the heartbeat of the Bansko Nomad Fest. And I believe it should be of every gathering of human beings, this as a heartpiece. And back to the idea, Nomad Fest. It doesn't have to be a Nomad Fest, but maybe the nomads were always the people that brought the new ideas. You know, in history, a lot of development always happened when the Arab guy came to Spain and said, "Hey, look, I have this powder here." No, that's how development happens. And now it seems again the nomads have a super interesting influence on how things develop in this world.
Absolutely. And I think it's very interesting that the digital nomad community is very analog about their personal lifestyle, but very digital about their work. No, there's a cognitive dissonance there, which is interesting to me, because I feel like when I travel to co-livings, even though everyone is working remotely, the sense of community is very tight. And that's something that is very hard or even impossible to replicate digitally. No? Sometimes we are too focused on digital tools and social networks, but we forget that the magic happens when we are together.
Yeah, we are getting more conscious about that than the normal people. I tried to bring people to our co-livings in Switzerland. I went to different cities and checked out the co-workings. And it's surprising how not connected they are. Or another nomad influencer, she wrote about how she went to Chicago. She did a home exchange, went to this beautiful, beautiful place, super upmarket apartment, and she said, man, and it was of a condominium, like many people together, but she said, how can I even enjoy this if I don't meet people? No. So the nomads are the first ones that understand, like, wow, that's what we need much more, and that's what is our big sickness of our time, that we get more and more and more lonely. And Instagram and Facebook, they promised us before to bring us together, but they did the opposite. We hide more and more. We are just talking about
more
our bubble.
polarized, more extremism.
Exactly, because we don't talk. Or in the US, the very sad thing that happened, that this crazy guy got voted because people don't want to talk with each other anymore. He's from this party, or we don't even talk with him anymore, which is very stupid and dangerous.
Yeah, because I feel like the energy when you talk person to person, the openness, and it's the messaging, and a message, no, it cannot convey everything, right? There's not so much bandwidth as in a real person-to-person conversation. No?
Definitely, like it's a totally different thing than I mean, the haters and the things that happen on this channel, they wouldn't react like this in person. No, they wouldn't do that in person.
No, they wouldn't.
But as well, they don't want to go to meet real people anymore. That was also a bit the pandemic that made that happen. There are in every country have now a lot of people that are like really isolated and don't show up anymore. I know in my hometown some people that really got stuck, and now they're only with their gadgets and very antisocial. And so that's actually, the Facebook is more an antisocial app now. Than a social app. It divided us more.
Absolutely. And this passion for events and bringing people together, and the Nomad Fest made you involved with Nomad Fest, right? In what ways?
So After doing many years my summer camps, I bought our first property in the Swiss Alps, and the thing was that Switzerland was always much more expensive than other countries, which was to our disadvantage. Like St. Moritz or Zermatt, which everybody knows. Tourists that go there, they don't give a shit about money. They have as much. That doesn't matter for them. Where we are, our place is very close to Verbier, but the real estate is very down, and we bought that place. And before I didn't believe that I could afford a big place. And then I bought several places like this for quite low amount of money. Then the pandemic hit, and then we had before big numbers of Russians, of Chinese, of Brazilians, and then we had much less students. And I was like, what am I going to do with my places now? And me, I have always been a digital nomad in a certain sense, that I have a son in Brazil. Been living for 17 years between Switzerland and Brazil. 2 months Brazil, 1 month Switzerland, 2 months Brazil, going, coming. And I was always a backpacker tourist. We always hitchhiked through Europe, me and my friends, I was always a nomad at heart. I never liked to be more than 1 or 2 weeks in one place. I always had to move. It's a bit my nature. And so I read this article about this guy that from Dubai that did in a neighbor valley in Switzerland that thing that was called co-living, that it was around 2017 that I read about that in my newspaper, and I was like really fascinated about that. But then it took a while until we said, wow, that could be something for us as well. And when we started our co-livings, we were finding ways of bringing people to our co-livings in Switzerland. Problem was a bit the pricing. It's still a bit expensive, although nowadays in the end you can stay in the Swiss Alps co-living in summer for 1,200 euro.
Amazing for Switzerland and compared to other co-livings in Europe, right?
Yeah, we are cheaper there, definitely. Yeah. And so me and my business partner Stefan, we went to Banff for the first time, 2022, and I was so overwhelmed. It was the best week of my life. I felt I learned in 1 week more than 2 years of university. I felt it was so hands-on, so intense. And I talked with Matthias, the founder, and I said, like, man, this you need to really bring to the world. And he was like, look, at the moment, it's not my focus, but why don't you do it? And then the year after, we did our own Nomad Fest, and we started to negotiate with Matthias. We were a bigger group of 10 people that were interested in buying the Nomad Fest. In the end, it was me that bought it, because the group in the end was not, they said it's too expensive for what we get. So I negotiated again with Matthias and then bought it. But then suddenly the group suddenly said, oh, come on, let's join again. And so in the end, now we're 7 co-owners and do the Nomad Fest now the second time this year. But I'm not much involved in operations. So, yeah.
Oh, nice. I've never thought about the possibilities of buying an event. That's super interesting to me.
Yeah. And we did since then also several other events. Now we did this, as I said, 3 times in Switzerland. We did a Nomad Fest, 1 in Bosnia as well. We did something small in Brazil after the Nomad Cruise. We did something small in Tallinn. We made more a one-day event with unconference. When we did the first Nomad Fest in Switzerland, that was actually really through Bansko. Like we had 55, 60 people coming. Most of them had been before to Bansko. In the beginning, we were a little bit disappointed, but soon we realized, wow, it doesn't matter the size at all. Whereas a music festival, when you have only 50 people, you're like, it's a bit boring.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the Nomad Fest is an event that includes the whole life. Now in Bansko, we do a football tournament, we do storytelling night, we do unconferences, speaker sessions. Everything is
the talent show as well.
Talent show, the speed
I
dating.
participated last year in the talent show
Really?
as well.
Cool.
Yeah. I danced bachata, which I really enjoy dancing. So
yeah, I mean, and that's what it should
amazing,
be about.
yeah.
I believe that's the other thing with what social media did to us, that we're not active anymore. We're just consuming. We're not going to the street anymore protesting against Donald Trump, because we're like, yeah, it's shit, but I'm just scrolling up and down. It's like a tranquilizer. Like Romans, if they would have known that there's this old saying, the games and all this stuff is the opium for the people. And that's what we found nowadays. With Instagram, it's exactly, the people are not getting angry anymore. They're just distracted.
Yeah, it's a great tool if you use it right, but then
Definitely.
the thing I feel with society nowadays is that we are very dopaminergic. So everything is about dopamine, about getting quick gratification for everything you do. And all the companies and everyone is trying to get your attention, and this breaks the brain.
Definitely.
So at some point, you only get satisfaction by infinite scrolling, because it's like playing with in the casino, no, with these kind of machines. So yeah, I think the way to diffuse that is to be more present, and I think you gain presence while being with others, right, and while being with other people that have attained that presence. And I feel like when I go to these events, because for example, now we are in the Nomad World Festival here in Albufeira in Portugal, there's this sense of people that are quite conscious or are in the process of becoming conscious or present, no? And that to me is the way to battle with dopamine and dopaminergic culture, let's say. Wow, okay.
That's interesting. And one thought I didn't finish before was somehow this Nomad Fest and this new way of gatherings and making the unconference and learning so well from each other, empowering adults, that interfered very much now with the other technical development with the AI, which also changes totally our life. No? So for me, that was actually quite funny because, yeah, like 2 or 3 years ago, we couldn't have imagined becoming a solopreneur just because of AI. The first solopreneur billionaire, as Sam Altman said, now suddenly possible. So again, back to the nomads, yeah, we have now this opportunity to do everything without any help on one hand. We don't need to be in a company. More and more people have seen now this opportunity of becoming solopreneurs, of doing the things ourselves, becoming free. That's a big part, free and independent. That's what we always hear now when we're at the event. Now that people say like, man, I don't want to be anymore following other people now, needing to work in a company and then following orders and stuff. It's at the moment, it's confusing now. It's so many things happening, and even if we're talking now at the moment, it's like the dopamines are going. It's a crazy time, and also what happens politically. This is scary as well now, and crazy times. But we had it about yesterday now. 1500, when Christopher Columbus discovered America, and the Renaissance happened at the same time, and the Moors were kicked out of the south of Spain, or at least of the bigger part of Spain. There are always these moments in history
everything
where
happens
everything
at once.
happens at once.
Yeah, I'm just so sorry for the future history students if they get in the exam. Oh, let's question the 2020 decade or that year's. Oh, there's going to be a lot of a lot of things to tell about. Yeah, in hindsight.
It's really crazy times. I mean, as well, I don't know if you remember last century, we had like the 50s. Everybody, if you talk about the 50s, everybody has a picture of how the 50s looked like, the hairstyle, the music. The 60s were different. You have your pictures. That was because of the mainstream media now, that everything there was the only channel, and they created this picture of how this period looked like. And now, if we look to the 10 or 0 years, you don't have any picture of how it was anymore in your mind.
Yeah, it's so diverse.
It's so multitude, it's so many things happening, different people do news, but then the downside was really that like now we don't have any more one interesting opinion. I read this article in the Spiegel newspaper from Germany that in the Soviet Union time, they did propaganda, but changed it by 10 to 15%. That they didn't have the courage to say 180 degrees the other thing that as they do nowadays with fake news. No, Donald Trump just says, no, that's not true. And you're like, what? It wouldn't have been possible 50, 60 years ago. That's so crazy.
And Pelé, you started with summer camps. What's your story behind that?
I grew up in Switzerland and Swiss German, and I asked my father when I was 16 or 17 years old, I asked him, hey, what would you do different again if you could restart? And he said, man, I would learn more languages and get better in languages. And I was always very good with mathematics, but not so good with languages. Don't have a good memory. And then I went to a language course for the first time, and I loved it so much because it's this tolerant atmosphere where people from different countries come together and they're very open-minded and very nice with each other. And I loved it so much. And I was like, wow, I don't like to learn languages, but I like to go to language schools.
The spirit, no?
Yeah, it's so cool. It's a community as well. It's people from everywhere with different mindsets, different views, and you learn so much. So then I went to Fribourg in Switzerland to study at the bilingual studies, half French, half German. When I was studying economics, I worked a lot with kids and with teenagers. I was a ski teacher for several winters. I was accompanying ski camps for kids. And I really liked working with people and with kids. And then I went as a group leader to England, and I liked it so much. I was like, man, let me do that myself. And I started the first day. I failed at my finishing exams.
Oh.
And then the same week, actually, I had with my new project, my freelang, I had to go to like a company, like to show the project, and they wanted to give me some funds. They supported me then in the end, definitely with 6,000 Swiss francs, because they said, that's a great idea. What do you want to do? So I never had a real job since I finished my studies, which I finished actually very late because I preferred partying and talking with people than going to university. I always felt it was a bit boring. And that's how I started my summer camps. And it was soon a success once I realized that is my own thing. I really liked to work and often did 12, 14 hours a day.
Because it's a passion project for you, then it's like a hobby, no? Like sometimes you forget that it's really work, no?
Exactly, yeah. Never felt like working. And as soon as I started to manage to hire people, I gave away the things that I think are boring. And it was...
So you should fire all your team, right? Fire them, and then you... Of course, I'm kidding. Don't fire. You are safe, guys. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Okay. And then how did that transition into co-livings?
When I came to Bansko, I felt, wow, that's the way how to empower adults, bringing them together. But no, obviously, from my side, it was more a need that we had to bring people to our place to have a certain occupancy. And then that's why we started then with co-livings,
And this prompts me to ask the question, what does co-living mean to you?
So I always liked to share. I always lived in sharing flats. I liked to hitchhike. I liked a bit this alternative lifestyle. I like these volunteering projects. Before I started my summer camps, I also went to several volunteering projects. I was for 12 years around a member of the second biggest volunteer organization in Switzerland as a volunteer myself. Like we met once or twice a month and exchanged ideas and tried to bring this organization forward, because I think it's one of the best peace projects, bringing people together as a volunteer, work for 1 or 2 weeks, having these small conflicts, understanding each other, creating something together. I love the idea of volunteerism.
And for you, the co-living, what does it need to have to be really a co-living?
So I think it should have this exchange, that not everybody is always on his own, and otherwise you don't need to join a co-living. But that's for me always surprising, how people are not having so much a need of sharing ideas. I remember when I arrived in my student home in Fribourg, where I studied, and the first year I lived in a student home where there were like 50 apartments, and with always 4 people in one apartment. And the first day I went to knock to every door, and I was like, hey guys, how are you? Let's meet.
What a weirdo, like, what are you doing?
That was the reaction.
Yeah.
With 80% of the people were like, what's going on with you? And some people were like, wow, that's great, cool. Let's have a coffee. But I was like, wait, this is a student home. You should share.
That should be the thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. That would be the normal. But a lot of people, I mean, I understand that some people are more introverts.
Of course.
But it's not even them, no? People have still this facade very often that things need to be done like this, and you cannot just knock on the door. I mean, that's a typical Swiss German thing, that you can't be too spontaneous. Some families, like my aunt, I remember I went flyering with my business partner for one project around Zurich, and then my aunt lives on the lake of Zurich. I went to knock on her door, and she was like, afterwards sending a message to my mother. This is very unpolite. He just came knocking, and I'm like, you know, and I live in Brazil as well. The Latino
You need to
culture
send
is the total different, the total opposite. That people are like, family is more important than everything else. And in German Nordic cultures, nowadays we're sometimes a bit too structured.
You first need to send a pigeon with the message, and then you can go and knock on the door.
Exactly.
Oh man. Yeah. And also, I'm interested on how does a crowdfunding go for a co-living? In your case, Swiss Alps.
Yeah, the Swiss Alps co-living that we started in 2023. We had the first ski vacation when we had there around 30 people, and for me, it was always the goal to bring people up to this little mountain village where we bought these different places. Even when I was younger, I always wanted to live up in the mountains. I wanted to do hotel management school, but then I realized, that's maybe not my way. And the reason why I didn't stay up in these places was because they were very conservative. They were very boring, maybe. And when I started the summer camps there, we had more and more volunteers coming regularly. But for me, getting older and older, it's also sometimes cool to have people a bit in the same age. So we had during the ski vacation, I came up with the idea, and I said to my business partner, Stefan, hey, look at the Auberge des Alpes up in the village. Why don't we ask these people to buy together with us, and we make a shared project? And that's where it started, and we showed them around, and everybody was interested. It was very cheap for what it was, building with 14 bedrooms for $500,000, but all the bathrooms were renovated. That's always one of the most expensive things to do. And yeah, we had within 2 weeks we had 15 supporters, but then they were all quite young, rather like up to 35, and then soon they thought again about it, and in the end then many of them stepped back. And then we went to Bansko Nomad Fest, and there we found immediately 15 people that wanted to join. And then it took quite a while. It was quite a bit of process. The thing is, Switzerland has this regulation that we cannot that easily give our real estate to foreigners. So we could only give 33% to foreigners, and the other 66% we had to keep ourselves because of this regulation. That was a bit a complicated process, but then once it was done, then we moved forward from there and signed everything. And now we have these different groups in our owners group that support with marketing, interior design, and events and so on.
Wow. So everything ties together, right? The Nomad Fest, the Swiss Alps, the feeling. It's a cool vision for the world, no? To bring everyone together and to share knowledge.
That's one of my projects that I have as well, but I didn't have much time to work on that. I was on the Nomad Cruise 23 from Tenerife to Brazil with my partner Patricia, and I participated in the Shark Tank and went to the final with this project. Let's create 25 co-livings together in the next 5 years with 150 plus nomads, and people can crowdfund several co-livings, have here a share of 5,000, then in Argentina a share of 5,000, then in Sri Lanka a share of 5,000, and that resolves one pain point of nomads, that you always need to find new people now. And if you can travel within this smaller group, it's a good thing. You stay in this place in the low season and you pay much less. And real estate investment is still one of the most secure investments, because it's very rare that it really goes lower than before now.
And can you go into details on how these crowdfunding processes go? Like, what do you get as a supporter for the project?
The project is called Co-living Revolution Club. That's on the website. As I said, I didn't invest much time in it yet, but yeah, I'm looking actually there for a business partner that is interested to join and has a bit more time than me, because I'm in too many projects active. And there is two ways how you can contribute. You can either put your co-living in your place, you can propose it, and then we check it. We give you feedback if it's realistic. I have a lot of experience with real estate. I bought 7 properties in Switzerland, and especially with bigger buildings. And we give you feedback. We give you feedback about the co-living, where we have also experience, or I hope that my co-founder has as well. And then if we believe that the project has future, then we put it on our platform. and then we reach out to the bigger group. And what we want to install then as well is a certain way of getting the money and a certain key of what stays with us. Probably something like 5% would stay in the organization. And the idea is as well that the initiator for a co-living, he should be the main owner, like have like maybe 20 to 40% at least, if possible 60%. In many countries you can get a mortgage if you're from the country, but it's also cool to have an owner that knows the culture, knows how to deal with the Italian construction guys, that can be on the place at least half a certain time of the year. No, we have one place in Montenegro, and that is the problem there a bit, that we are not there. It's not that easy to keep things going if you need to organize it remote. And then the other way to join it is to say, oh wow, in Italy, in the Tuscany, buying a co-living, that's my dream. I put down 5,000. We will then put the project, and you will see for 5,000 you get this percentage. And then it's also the responsibility of the initiator, how he wants these people involved. Do they have voting rights, or should they only give money? I believe it's always the best if you're very, very federal sense, not standardized everything and centric like France. Like our German cultures are much more federal cultures. That gives you much more freedom, decision powers, and lets it grow much more organically. So yeah, let's see where we go there.
Okay. I wanted to ask you also about the Nomad Summit. What can you tell us about that project?
So that is a friend of mine, Christoph, that I already organized together with him the Dancing Latitudes last year. We went from Lisbon to Tallinn in 25 days together with Seth and Miguel. We're 4 co-founders, and we traveled through Europe by train, bus, and did stops in 10 bigger cities where we did nomad unconferences. Like, we encouraged people to think about this opportunity, gave feedback, told about our experiences. And afterwards, we always had pitch sessions that were small events with like 25 to 60 people. And then Christoph asked me in the beginning of last August or so if I would be interested in joining the Nomad Summit. And I was like, maybe not as not working there, but because at the moment I'm involved in too many projects, but I'm happy to support with some money as an investor. And then I went to Chiang Mai, where we did have the first event with around 250 people, I think. It was really cool. It was amazing coming to Chiang Mai. For me, it was the first time after 25 years coming to Chiang Mai. And I arrived there and I already knew 30 to 40 people. I mean, it's amazing. Like, I was before always a backpacker, and I always like to meet new people, and I like to go to the youth hostels and then connect and learn about people. But then what happened for me in the last years, it was like I start to be too old to connect with the 25 years old. Their topics are sometimes boring for me, just drinking and partying and whatever. So that's why I was super happy as well to connect with this nomad community. And that was one of my highlights, to arrive there and have a lot of cool talks that maybe started in another place and you continue and you have a history together. And as well, from the business side, it's super interesting now. And so the Nomad Summit will do a next event then in Tallinn in August, where we want to focus more on remote work, bringing together with companies. I believe that there's a huge potential that companies can come and mingle and exchange ideas with remote workers, and you see each other some days and you see the real person. And that's how businesses, how good collaborations start as well, when you see the person.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when it's more on a friendish level than just
clients and providers, no? Like, more about, friends, no? And then from there we can do business together.
Exactly. I think it's in the future much more important that you're on the same mindset, because you need much less people working for you. So these personal connections are getting more important. And like many modern companies, progressive companies always had that. I had always in the company a bit this friendship relation with my colleagues. Yeah. And then the other event is end of August in Switzerland. with the Nomad Summit, where we do a meetup where we bring together seasoned entrepreneurs, a small group of like 15 to 20 people where we exchange ideas for 1 week.
Yeah, that's amazing. You get so energized and so motivated then to pursue your own projects when you go to these gatherings with people that are like-minded.
Definitely.
Definitely check it out. Well, Pelé, after all of these amazing projects that you've mentioned, you have even one more.
I have several more.
Several more. Okay, we might need another episode in the future.
I got a family hostel as well. That's
a family what?
Family hostel.
Ah, okay.
That have been trying for 6 or 7 years. That when we bought our first group house in 2007, some families, friends of mine came up there. And we had a good time together. I was like, man, this we need to start. And we did it several times again. Like once we were close to Lake Adelboden in Switzerland in a group house with like rooms of 20 beds per room. And my friends, they're all like, they're mostly teachers, academics, but quite alternative and they really like this stuff. And we enjoyed it a lot, but so far I didn't manage to make it a proper product. But now I'm starting again. I'm working on it again. And another project I have is the company retreats.io. I want to bring people to our places. What we're quite unique with is our places are quite affordable for Switzerland. They're not luxury like we always need to manage the expectations of our clients. But it's not important. No, me and my partner, we were in Copenhagen now. For me, the second time after 25 years. No, the third time was 25 years ago, the last time in Copenhagen. And I made a mistake booking the nice place. And then there was the really ugly, shitty place. And we went there like, it's how it is. Like really horrible. And the thing was like, that was the reason not to stay in the room and to discover and be outside all the time. You know? And that's with accommodation sometimes as well.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's another thing that I really try to bring forward. Workations, company retreats, offsites that I'm working on. And then the app exactly is what I have been really investing a lot of time in the last, like I've been working so much again. I often have these phases where I work
a lot of work
80 to 100 hours a week where I'm like still working at 11, 12 at night, get up at 8 again. And I get really like nervous somehow, but it's an excitement nerve. Like it's this like, I'm running. I had that when I started my summer camps for the first year. Like I was a solopreneur as well. I had to do everything myself, but it was a cool feeling between being already a little bit like always too nervous, but I have that now again and it's a cool feeling. And I'm working a lot on this idea, the Spark Connect, where I try to connect different cities, different communities, different ecosystems on one app that they can share ideas, that they can create projects together. You will have the crowdfunding function. You will have the function to upload your project. You have also the events function. So you can in your city say, hey, on Monday I do a pasta dinner in my place. I have 5 spaces. So people can say, oh, cool, I want to go to this person and join the pasta dinner. You can connect with people in other cities. If you go to this city, you say, hey, in Zurich, I don't know anyone, then you can send a request for make a coffee chat or a city tour. You can, what will be the hard piece is kind of a bit like an unconference, but a bit more the online way that we do regular pitch sessions on a local level, but also on a global level, around different topics, but as well around just a city to present. So everybody has 90 seconds. That's all going to be automatized. You can say, oh, on Tuesday on the weekly pitching session in Rio, I have time. So I inscribe and then you see in your slot where you are. And then afterwards you can connect with the people and say, hey, this topic is really interesting me, or what you're talking about or what are your interests is really concerning me. And then we also bring on the co-workings, the co-livings, the festivals that they have. When they subscribe, they will have their small tools where people can connect with each other. One problem we want to solve as well is like nowadays we are all in 150 different WhatsApp and Facebook groups, but we can't see what's happening there. So an AI should find out and see like, hey, someone wants to sell a dog. You're looking for a dog. So that AI should help us with that. At the moment, it's maybe too many things. So I need to find out what is really the focus at the moment. But my goal is to bring on the different people that I met during the Dancing Latitude, during the Nomad World Fest in Rio, during the Nomad Fest in Bansko. I want to have city connectors in different communities that bring on people, that create a bit the community. The other pain point I had is I went to Bansko in 3 weeks ago, but I was working really much and I didn't have time to check on the different Facebook, WhatsApp group what's happening. So I was just continuing to work. It took me too long time. If I would have seen, Monday is the marketing meetup, and it would have been there in the program, then I would have just gone.
Yeah.
But that's going to be the idea as well, that you see for the different cities that join, you see, okay, someone does a marketing meetup at this place. Someone does a running breakfast where you first run 5 kilometers and then you have breakfast together and you exchange ideas. So I want to showcase all these cool, amazing initiatives, then see where that goes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think you want to launch it by when Bansko Nomad Fest starts, more or less. So we'll show the people, right, when you post it. Amazing. Well, I also want to mention that this beautiful space has been given by Coworking Albufeira, so thank you very much. And I think that might be the end of the episode. Oh man, so many things, so cool. Oh, and let me also say thank you to Mamelon for sponsoring this episode. And Pelé, it has been a tremendous pleasure.
Thank you very much, César. Well, thank you very much.
Bye bye, everyone.
Bye bye.